Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Michael Show. I'm Michael Tran, and today, I have to be honest, I will be very straightforward to you by saying you have a bad news for Virginia because right after the Democrats took power, they start doing things that opposite to what they promised to you during the election. We will have like a tsunami of legislations that will raise your tax. And then they also have a redistricting plan that they want to put in a referendum, but luckily a judge just put a stop to it. But they will keep on appealing it. And the most important thing, the top law enforcement officer of the state is the guy who only promised is going against the federal government, going against President Trump. And it sounds an alert that Virginians might not be safe as the time we had his predecessor in office. And today, I have the honor to bring to you his predecessor, whose tenure was a success to keep Virginians safe. And we're going to go through his analysis on what he did and what is going on and what may come forward and what we should do to stay safe in the next 4 years before the next election. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome to the show the 48th Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Honorable Jason Miyares. Mr. Attorney General, thank you and welcome to the show.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me, Malcolm.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry that we did not re-elect you in November. But my vote was for you, absolutely. And it happens in political life. But today we will talk about your success and during your tenure and what we should expect when we have the new guy in officer.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate it. I'm really proud of my time as Attorney General in Virginia. I'm proud of where we took Virginia. When I took office, when Governor Youngkin and I took office, Virginia, was a state that was really struggling. It was a state that had more people moving out of the state than moving in. And it was really in this kind of lethargic doldrum after COVID. And we implement a lot of smart policies. As Attorney General, obviously, is the top law enforcement officer in the state. My focus was on public safety. I like to say we were the people's protector. And, when I came into office, our murder rate was at a 20-year high. Our violent crime rate was at a 30-year high. And we had the highest levels of addiction deaths ever reported in the history of Virginia. And we really wanted to focus on going after these fentanyl dealers that were poisoning so many of our innocent citizens, go after the repeat violent offenders, put more cops on the street, and change this mindset that when we came into office, it was this criminal first, victim last mindset. And we had some incredible successes, huge drop, 30% drop in the murder rate, double-digit drop in the violent crime rate, largest reduction in addiction deaths of any state in the country. And I think that is a great testimony to so much of the good work from our prosecutors in the Attorney General's office or a partnership with Governor Youngkin. So I'm incredibly proud of that. And, listen, we had some tailwinds. And before the election, if you told me I was going to outperform the top of the ticket by over 9 points, I would have said we're in a great position. Couldn't quite affect what was happening at the top of the ticket, and that definitely had a down ballot impact. And so, but we're excited. We haven't stopped fighting, and as I like to say, you can't have a comeback without a setback. And so, I think you'll see us again. But appreciate your kind words and appreciate your support back in November.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that we didn't do enough to we couldn't do enough to get you through, but it happens in every elections. And with your successor in, we all expose him. Everybody expose him in during the election time. But the thing is we have 45 days. Yes. So for uh, my Vietnamese audience, you can go with the subtitles by hitting the CC icon in the video, and you will have the Vietnamese subtitle. Yeah.
Apologies. I'm
Yes, that
back.
yeah. Thank you, sir. It happens. So yeah, with your successor in office, Jay Jones, what can we expect that he would do? Because he promised just to go against the president. That's it.
Well, I mean, listen, he's a proud left wing, aggressive progressive. He's never been a prosecutor a day in his life. I like to joke he should have run to be the Attorney General of California instead of Virginia. Uh, but listen, he is already in the short time he's been in office completely dismantled what I think has been one of the most successful public safety initiatives ever seen in any attorney general's office in Virginia, which was Operation Ceasefire. That was I looked at the numbers. I looked at where crime was in Virginia. I realized that while we had a really high murder rate, it was primarily focused per capita in 13 areas. I also saw that roughly on average, about 5% of felons were committing over 50% of the violent felonies. And so we really decided you have to go after this small subset of repeat violent offenders. So much of it is also tied to the narcotics trade. And so we prosecuted and removed enough fentanyl off the streets of Virginia that would have taken the lives of 7 million Virginians. And we went after these repeat violent offenders, and we saw a remarkable turnaround, remarkable drop in the murder rate in these cities. And you know, when you go after the small subset, like Roanoke was one of our ceasefire cities, the murder rate dropped 62% from where it was because we went after these repeat violent offenders. And so he's largely already begun the process of dismantling it. And listen, once any public office holder, whether you're the attorney general, whether you're the governor, or whether you're just a state representative somewhere, at the end of the day, your big balance is how do you balance the resources of your office? Because it's finite and you can only have as much bandwidth to focus on certain things. And we very intently, when we came in, made the determination that we were going to focus, particularly given where Virginia's crime rate was, to focus on the public safety aspect of the job and to focus on the fact that the Attorney General's office that I inherited had really really de-emphasized the criminal section, the criminal law section of the office. Even though that's the largest section of the Attorney General's office, we decided to turbocharge it, give them resources, work with law enforcement. I can't tell you the number of local law enforcement officers and sheriffs that we would reach out to meet with, put a task force with, and talk to that say they'd never heard from or talked to anybody in the Attorney General's office before I took office. So it was a sea change. I think he's doing obviously the opposite, and that's, you know, he's an aggressive progressive. That's who he is. He's very left wing, and I think we've seen what happens when you have a left wing monopoly take power in state government. They are pushing. You know, when Governor Youngkin left office, he left them with $2.7 billion of a budget surplus. And despite the fact that there's this enormous budget surplus, they have introduced about every single tax increase you can imagine, from taxing your energy bill to taxing your Uber driver to taxing your DoorDash to income taxes to sales tax increases. To say they are on a tax and spend spree would be an understatement of biblical proportions.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they don't view it as your money; they view it as their money, and that's really what their mindset is. There's really no tax that they are not at least considering, and I think at the end of the day, they ran on a promise of affordability. That promise, I think, they have broken in less than 30 days in office.
Yes, sir. And one of the first things that the Democrat administration did right after they took office is to erase every legacy that the Youngkin, Sears, and Miyares administration did, and they are filing like I can say a dozen of tax increase bills. They even taxed. They even have something like the concert tax and even game tax, every kind of tax. But for the office of Attorney General, and then we are now having like a hot news, trending news on social media and state and nationwide is the immigration law enforcement rates in sanctuary cities, and one of the hardest point now is Minnesota, and we see the I can say the fight between the federal government and the state government there. We just have Tom Homan, the border czar, came in and he said that they cut a deal, but we don't know if they're gonna honor the deal. The Democrats, the officials, they will honor the deal. So do you think that it will happen in Virginia? Because Spanberger and her colleagues said that they would make Virginia a sanctuary state.
Yeah, I was pretty astonished that that was Governor Spanberger's first act, uh, because it shows just how out of touch and how devoid she is from understanding what law enforcement is, what they are actually doing, and even more so than that. And this is not hyperbole or rhetoric. There is going to be Virginians that are killed and murdered, raped or robbed by someone that should have been in ICE custody that wasn't because of her prohibition of local law enforcement authorities from working with federal agencies. That is inevitable. There is a Virginia citizen that's going to lose their life or be grievously harmed because of this, because I saw it with my own two eyes during the Biden administration, because I'm a big believer to be out and actually, not just rely on the media, but actually talking to those are federal agents involved in immigration enforcement. And I saw an MS-13 gang member. He was a gang. MS-13 is one of the most notorious, violent, narco terrorist organizations you will ever find. Uh, uh, Huge presence in Northern Virginia. I saw how, because the local sheriff there had made an individual decision that they would never notify ICE when they pick somebody up. So the way it's supposed to work, if somebody that's here illegally has committed a felony or a crime and you're holding them in your jail cell, they'll notify ICE and let them know, we have somebody here to put on your radar that's here illegally, that's committed a violent crime or committed a DUI. And she refused to. She refused to let ICE know that this person was in their custody. He was a notorious gang member. He had been indicted on a rape charge. So he was an accused rapist. A liberal judge in Northern Virginia gave him bond to allow him to walk free, even knowing that this person's immigration status, he was illegal, allowed him to make bond. And in a normal world, if that is the case, for a judge that a sheriff that is cooperative, the sheriff would call ICE and say, this guy's making bond, but he's an illegal. Can you take him into custody? So he's not back in our community where he can harm again. They did not do so. They had to put together a team of folks to track this MS-13 gang member down. When they tried to arrest him, it literally, he was running through trying to escape arrest right past a bunch of children waiting to get on a bus stop for Fairfax Public Schools. He could have easily kidnapped, harmed, or while he was out, and it took him several weeks to find where he is. And you hear these stories that you've already seen around the country of people that previously were in custody by local law enforcement that were illegal. They get released. They basically abscond because they're not obviously going to show up for trial, and then they go harm another innocent American. And so it is a great example of a left-wing political ideology overtaking common sense. And that's exactly what you're seeing on so many of these governors that are choosing, they have more of an interest in protecting violent, illegal immigrants that have committed crimes against American citizens than allowing federal law enforcement to do their jobs. That's exactly what we're saying. Despite all of the legacy media is hyperventilating right now about what's happening, fundamentally that's what's happening. Is they are not cooperating and working with federal authorities on what the law is. Now, maybe you don't like the law. Maybe you're listening to this and you think, well, I think if you're here illegally, you should not be deported. Okay, it's your right to believe that. Then change the law. Work through Congress, go get elected left wing Democrats who have that worldview and change the law. But that's not what the law is. And these federal agents, their job is to enforce the law. They're not the decision makers. They're not in Congress. They don't have a vote. They swore an oath of office to uphold the law, and that law is decided by elected representatives in the federal government. If you don't like the law, then work through the democratic process to change the law. But that's not what's happening. They're essentially these governors and these congressmen, these governors and some left-wing congressmen, these governors and some of these mayors are essentially saying, we're going to ignore what federal law is, and we're just not going to cooperate with federal agents. And I think that's how we got to where we are at this time, at this kind of crucial moment in America today. And there's a lot of misinformation out there what's happening in the legacy media, because it seems to me they're more interested in a narrative than the truth. And I think we're seeing a lot of that as well.
Yes, especially with the death of Rene Good and Alex Pretty. If you're a reasonable person, you would say that these tragedies could have been avoided if they don't join in like protests like that, if they don't interrupt and obstruct the federal agents, and if the local government agree to cooperate. And in the press conference, Tom Homan said that he did not ask the local authorities to enforce the federal immigration law. They just want these people to cooperate. And I don't think that the Democrats, they really get the message, and they keep on demonizing law enforcement agents, which is very bad. And I'm just afraid that the the newcomers will destroy everything that you did. Um, it's very unfortunate for Virginia. I'm saying it with a broken heart, sir. And not only that, we also see the Democrats trying to silence our votes by passing the constitutional amendment, which needs a referendum for a new congressional map, which ridiculously erase, I can say, at least 4 seats, and they're gonna bring like a 10 Democrats, 1 Republican delegation, and we glad that a county judge in Virginia just put an injunction on it. It was a solid ruling, and then Democrat just filed the appeal to it. So, what is your take, your assessment on this lawsuit, and your prediction of the end game of this fight, sir?
Well, I mean, I want to be clear. It is one of the most blatant power grabs we've ever seen, I think, in the history of Virginia. For your listeners to kind of get a sense, and this is something that I had championed even when Republicans were in power. But I had championed nonpartisan redistricting reform 5 years ago, 5+ years ago. And it was a constitutional amendment. Before then, politicians would draw the lines and they would pick their constituents. And the idea was, well, let's take the politics out of this. Let's create real communities of interest. We created a nonpartisan redistricting amendment that then passed. And in Virginia, ultimately, the voters approved constitutional amendments. And it passed with 2/3 of the vote. And basically what Democrats are doing is they're telling 2/3 of Virginians, we don't care. We don't care. We're going to take our orders from national Democratic groups that tell you. And Virginia right now, we have 11 congressmen from Virginia. 6 are Democrats, 5 are Republicans. It's pretty reflective of the state. This is a purple state with maybe some shades of blue. But it is a congressional map and the congressional delegation reflects a pretty evenly divided state. Instead, they have decided that they're going to create congressional districts that start in Arlington or Alexandria and end in Bath County. That's not a community of interest by any objective measure. And they passed this thing in the dead of night. The way these constitutional amendments of any sort occur is that you pass it through one General Assembly, through the House and the Senate. Then you have to have an intervening election. So, and before the intervening election, you're supposed to have the amendment posted at every courthouse in the state for 90 days prior to the election. Well, as you know, we no longer have election day in Virginia. We have election season.
Yeah.
It starts essentially the second week of September. We have 45 days, no excuse, absentee ballot. So they're trying to claim that they passed this before the intervening election on November 4th. They passed it the last week in October after 1 million Virginians had already voted. 1 million people had already voted.
Yep.
And so it's clear that also it violated a clear violation of the own statutory requirement of a 90 days prior to election season starting. And then they clearly had 1 million Virginians that were disenfranchised. Because the idea is you have an informed electorate. They know when they're factoring in who to vote for state senate or state house, in this case, state house. One of their factors is, okay, we have a constitutional amendment that they just passed, and that's going to factor one of the big issues on how I vote. People already voted. And so I think it's pretty clear day. It is a blatant power grab. The nonpartisan redistricting amendment passed 5 years ago with 2/3 of voters in an evenly divided state. The fact that 60+% of Virginians say, no, politicians shouldn't be picking these lines. And they're basically blowing it up. And it is a really astonishing thing to see. I'm grateful that we issued an AG's opinion while this is going on, saying this is unconstitutional what they're doing. Grateful that the circuit court judge in Tazewell reached the same legal analysis conclusion that we did. It's obviously going to make its way, but make no mistake, what this is the left-wing Democrats in Richmond telling every Virginian in this state that lives in a rural area, whether it's Shenandoah Valley, Southside Virginia, Southwest Virginia, drop dead. You don't deserve a voice. Drop dead. We're going to take away your voice. We're going to take away your representatives. That's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. And I think this is going to be a real unique moment in Virginia. If they are able to somehow, intimidate the justices and the judges to try to allow this thing to go to ballot referendum, I think it's a real unique moment for the future of Virginia and which way we go.
Yes, sir. And then everybody can see on the map that like District 6, they draw it from Alexandria to Virginia Beach. In Alexandria and in Virginia Beach, they will vote for the same representative. And Alexandria will be divided into like three or four districts, and Richmond will vote the same as Alexandria, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. They're just trying to gerrymander the district to take a state that's evenly divided and say, Shenandoah Valley, you don't matter, you don't get a voice.
Yes.
Republican voters in Virginia Beach, you don't matter, you don't get a voice.
Yes.
Republicans on the Eastern Shore, you don't matter, you don't get a voice. We're basically going to have a delegation from Northern Virginia representing the entire state. And it is an outrageous attempt to rig the system. And that's what it is. And it's them telling Republican voters drop dead. That's what it is. I cannot emphasize enough. It will turn Virginia into a left-wing California-like hellhole if this thing is able to survive and get through. It will fundamentally change the character of Virginia where it's unrecognizable in 10 years.
Yes, and that's why I talked to my audience during the election time that Democrats will make Virginia California. And actually, they brought like the EV the EV requirement from California to Virginia before Governor Youngkin came in and stopped it. Um,
Right.
yes, and it is very good news that you also just joined the Virginians for Fair Maps. Congratulations on your um, I can say the return after the election. And would you play any role in that? Would you maybe may litigate the
Yeah,
case before the Supreme Court or
I'm going to
anything?
be a co-chairman of it, Virginia for Fair Maps. What you have up on your screen is this 10-1 power grab. And we're going to try to defeat it and make sure that the will of the voters they approved just 5 years ago stands tall. And so I think it's a power grab. I think Virginians are going to recognize it's a power grab. And I think Virginians are going to recognize, no, we don't want to go the way of California, New York, and Maryland. And they're going to reject this really ill-advised left-wing push for power in Virginia.
Yes, and I hope that the Supreme Court of Virginia, and even if we go to the Supreme Court of the United States, they will see it and they will rule in a fair way for all Virginians. Because the key point is they did it wrong. The Democrats they did it wrong on the legal text. They just did it wrong.
Right.
Yeah, it's not about politics. It's about legal, and they did not do it the right way. And Mr. Attorney General, you said that you will come back, and can we ask for a hint that what your comeback may be, maybe in the near future or in the long run, maybe U.S. Attorney or anything, sir?
Well, I love Virginia. I think this is an extraordinarily special place. The people are amazing. Uh, and I one of the things I appreciate about Virginia so much is in many ways Virginia is like a small Microsoft microcosm of the entire country. Obviously, my family, I was the first child of an immigrant ever elected attorney general. My family fled communist Cuba with nothing, and I appreciated Northern Virginia. So many that their story is like my story, where their family came to this country legally, but seeking hope and opportunity, and that their family, in many ways, because of that. I love that aspect. I love the incredible spirit of resiliency you see in Southwest Virginia. Those are incredibly kind Virginians that they'll give you the shirt off your back. They are a good and decent people. I love my home area of Hampton Roads, which has the highest concentration of military service personnel of any area in the country. When you grow up in a place like Virginia Beach that I did, with so many that have served their nation, they are the definition of meritocracy. Uh, and what's even more appreciative is it is so patriotic. In my home area of Virginia Beach, Memorial Day is not just a long weekend. It is a way to just recognize those that have given the last full measure of devotion to this remarkable country. I love the Shenandoah Valley, where I lived for a couple of years in college. Um, Incredibly gracious people and some of the most beautiful scenery. So I love the Northern Neck and the Eastern. I love the Commonwealth, and I want to continue to serve her in the future. So stay tuned on what that's going to look like in maybe 2029. But I know this: I love Virginia too much to walk away. I love Virginia too much to see it turn back to left-wing policies that had it in such a bad place. To give you an idea of what we inherited, for the first time in 100 years since Calvin Coolidge was president of the United States in the 1920s, for 8 straight years, when we took office after 2021, for 8 straight years leading up to when we got sworn in, more people had moved out of Virginia than moved into Virginia, something that had not happened since the 1920s. And we were becoming one of those states that was dying, where our children were leaving the state. People's kids were leaving the state. Businesses were not coming here. People didn't want to locate here. And Governor Youngkin reversed the trend. and I called it the Virginia Renaissance. I said it was one of the most remarkable turnarounds any state has seen in 4 years in modern American history. And I think as a result of that, this Virginia Renaissance, we reversed the trend, and now more people are moving to Virginia to chase their dreams, start their business, and people were staying here. I have such concerns about the future of the Commonwealth reverting back to one of those states where people are fleeing from instead of moving to chase their dreams. And so, um, my immediate goal is to make sure I stop this left wing power grabs with the maps. But you'll continue to see me engaged and stay tuned about my political future.
Thank you, sir. I'm so excited to hear that, and me also. If you need anything from us, just we are here for you, and you have our back. Whatever you
Thank
do,
you.
and
Thank
if we
you.
can help in if we can help in the map, or if in the worst case the referendum, and then in the upcoming election in 26, 27, and even 29, that you said that we should stay tuned on it, we will be there. We will be there for you, sir.
I'll count on it. Thank you for being a lover of freedom. Thank you for loving this country, and I look forward to locking arms with you on the trail ahead. So God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Where can people can engage with you on social media? Do you have any website or
Yeah, yeah.
accounts?
Well, I still have my website, jasonmiyares.com up, or just go Jason for Virginia. They can go there. They can go follow me on Twitter, Jason Miyares VA at Jason Miyares VA on Twitter, or Instagram, or Facebook. So I'm on all those platforms, and we update them, and we're excited.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Attorney General Miyares. It's an honor to have you on this, and we will be we will stay vigilant for the next for the next couple of years to come, and
No
we
question.
hope that we're gonna have like a change at least in 27. To
Outstanding.
yeah, and then in 29, and I wish you all the best, to your career, to what you do, to your family, and to this great Commonwealth. I'm choking. I'm choking my throat when to hear that, sir. And to ladies and gentlemen, to my great audience, thank you for and I hope that you enjoyed the show. And we'll be in touch with the Attorney General, and we will have more shows to come. Thank you, and we see you again.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.